Hi there, I'm that font guy. Today I'm going to show you how to generate glyphs automatically for your Conlang writing system. I'm going to explain what you need to do to follow this process and then show you why you might want to do this. I hope you enjoy it. So, this is the first version of the Kana alpha syllabary that I built to use in some previous videos. And you can see it has all the glyphs for the letters, uppercase and lowercase, and some digraphs that are used as well. And if you scroll down, you'll see all of the syllables. Now, the ones in green here are syllables that would appear at the start of a word. And the ones after them here in this shade of pink are the ones that would appear at the end of a word, and they're all marked .fina. So we have those two basic big groups of glyphs. I chose this design for making these videos because it's very linear and I thought it would be very quick to develop. As it is, it still took a long time. When I made changes and found errors and things like that, I had to go through and manually change them, and it rippled through the whole set of glyphs. Now, you'll note on the finas that they have this little tag here that is the attachment to the previous syllable. You will note that a glyph for SA does not have a diacritic marking the vowel. The assumption is when you see a glyph, it is a syllable and the vowel is A. That's pretty common in syllabaries. If you want to mark it as SE, it has a dot above it. SI, it has two dots above it. SO, it has this little angled accent over top of it, and SU, it has this line with a curve at the end. That is replicated all the way through here, so those are the vowel diacritics. As I said, I made changes. For instance, I determined that the narrow glyphs here, having the full-size U over top of it, just didn't work right. I had to have a special version that was shorter. So, having done all this work, I thought this is probably an excellent example of where we could apply generating glyphs and have the whole system be automated. So I produced the next version of it here. And as you can see, it has the glyphs and the punctuation and numbers and stuff like that. And then it has the diacritics, which is E, I, O, U, the shorter version of U, the mark that appears on the left of a fina glyph to join it to the previous glyph, and this one here that appears at the bottom, which indicates a consonant that does not have a vowel. Okay, I'll show you how that works on the original version. If I type in SAKATA, you can see that we get a version of each of the glyphs, and they're joined to the previous glyph by that little mark there. That's Sakata. If I typed in SIKOTU, you would see the diacritics across the top, and it's joined. If I type in SAT with no vowel, you will see that it has a little diacritic at the bottom there that indicates there is no vowel attached to this glyph. And that's how the system works, more or less. There's a bunch of scripting, and I'll show you that too, but that's the way it works. However, over here, I had to generate this automatically. To do that, I had to do a number of things. The first one is to put in anchors. So let's pick B here. You will notice there are three anchors here. There's one at the top called top, where the vowel diacritics will appear. There's one on the left called left, where the fina mark that joins it to the previous syllable will appear. And there's one at the bottom here called bottom, which is where the mark that indicates there is no vowel attached will appear. And when I go down here to the diacritics, you will see that the glyph for the vowel is present, and in the center there is a diacritic, or an anchor, and it's marked with an underscore and the same name. So underscore top. And when I go to the final mark there, underscore left. And when I go to the isol at the bottom there, underscore bottom. That setup means that each diacritic mark that I want to attach to a glyph has a name which matches the position on each of the glyphs for the anchor, with an underscore on the name. So again, up here, we have, I'm going to drag this window so you can see it a bit better. We have top with no underscore, left with no underscore, and bottom with no underscore. And in the corresponding diacritics, we have underscore top on the ones that will appear on the top, underscore left for the one that will appear on the left, and underscore bottom for the one that will appear on the bottom. And you'll see they're shaded in lightly. And this weird blur at the top here is because it's including a shade for all of the diacritics that use the top anchor. So that's the first thing that needed to be done, as I went through and marked all of those for their anchors and marked all the diacritics for their anchors. I then wrote a text file that includes all the instructions to generate all the glyphs. And this is it here. So, ignoring the notes at the top, I highlight all of this, which takes it a second. I copy it. I come back to FontLab Studio 7 and go to Font, Generate Glyphs, and cut and paste that in there. I also make sure I have Use Anchors checked, Link as References, which I'll talk about later, checked. I don't have Rebuild Existing Glyphs. I could have that checked, except I have been deleting these each time and looking for errors and problems, but it could be set to rebuild and it would just replace them with the new version of the glyph. I don't need create auto layers, and I am not using simple FLS 5 syntax, which is FontLab Studio 5 syntax, which is basically no more than a reversal of the format for inputting these instructions. I am not opening new glyphs for editing because you end up with one glyph that contains all of it, and I don't need that. I can look at the results in the main window here. I do have new glyphs being flagged by a color. So when I click OK, the magic happens. Boom. All those glyphs have been created, and if I was to make a change to one of them up here, it would be reflected down here, and I'll show you how that works. GHI. You'll see how these are shaded here with each of the components there. That's the build as references thing. So if I was to change the diacritic for I up here to a different symbol, all of the glyphs for the syllables that included that would have the new version automatically. I wouldn't need to edit them because they're references to the original mark up here. Same thing with the base glyph. If I change the base glyph for GH up here, wherever it is, right there, if I change that to a different symbol, then all of the ones down here would be changed automatically. So with the idea that you are going to be making changes to things, you are going to find problems, you're going to find something you didn't do that you need to do, and you were going to change the original glyphs, using this generate glyphs system and having them generated as references is going to save you a lot of time and effort. It does require you to create the instructions for it, and that's all the stuff that was in here, and I will go over that and show you how that works. Okay, so now we're going to look at the text file, which I have named generate_glyphs.txt and saved in the same folder that I'm saving my font in. It's easier to make changes in here and then use generate glyphs to make the results than it is to go through and edit each of the glyphs, or to try and edit it in the window there. So the first thing, this top section here, is simply creating the capital letter version of each of the glyphs. So capital A equals A. That means that it's going to generate a glyph called capital A that looks identical to the A glyph, lowercase, in the original base glyphs that I built. And it does that all the way through to Z. Then we have the digraphs. Capital CH equals lowercase ch, capital DH equals lowercase dh, and all of these glyphs that are here in lowercase are ones that are created in the base here. Then we get on to the syllable glyphs. So the glyph for BA, which in the format that they use for these things is B_A, to make it clear, is equal to the glyph for B. There's no difference. If you see B on its own and it doesn't have the little ISIL mark at the bottom there, it represents BA. The glyph for BE equals B plus E mark at top. So that's base glyph plus diacritic at anchor. So to make that clearer, that is B. We are using the E mark, which is this, and it's appearing at the top anchor. If it's the next one down, B_I equals B plus I mark at top. And it follows all the way through there, except when you get to D. D is a narrow glyph, and the diacritics for E, I, and O will fit just fine, but the one for U will not. So I have a special version called U mark short. And D_U equals D plus U mark short at top. So when we go back up here, that is U mark. This is U mark short. It's a shorter version of it. That's all there is to it. And that carries on all the way through for each of the possible syllables, all the way down, using U mark short where appropriate, until we reach this point here with the last one. ZH_U equals ZH plus U mark at top. And that will generate all the initial syllables, the ones that showed up in a light purple here. Then we come to the finas, and this gets a little bit more complex. A.fina equals A plus fina mark at left. That's straightforward. That's the same as up here, only we're putting the fina mark on there. B_fina equals B plus fina mark at left plus ISIL mark at B:bottom. Now, that might need a little bit of explanation there. What that means is B.fina, that's B on its own with no vowel attached, equals B plus the fina mark to attach it to the previous syllable at the left anchor plus the ISIL mark that appears at the bottom there that says this is a consonant without a vowel at the bottom anchor, but you have to put B: in there because the anchor is being located on the base glyph. And if you leave that out, your anchor is going to appear in some strange position based on trying to locate it matching the ISIL mark. And that isn't going to work. This caused me a lot of confusion, I have to admit, until somebody on Reddit pointed out the correct syntax. So for a vowel, it has the final mark, but it doesn't have an ISO mark. The ISO mark indicates there is no vowel, so that's why the first line doesn't have it. But for any of the consonants here, we need the ISO mark. We need the matching letter, so D dot fina equals D, the D glyph, plus fina mark at left, which is done relative to the D glyph, plus ISO mark at D relative to the D glyph, colon bottom. So that's the bottom anchor. E is a vowel, so it's like A. And the rest all follow this pattern here all the way through, noting things like the digraphs here. CH, it's going to be the CH glyph plus fina mark at left plus ISO mark at CH colon bottom. But that goes all the way through there like that. And that's the individual letters being marked with a fina mark and with an ISO mark if they're isolated. Then we get into each of the syllables, which is why this text document is so long. So for B underscore A dot fina, it equals the B glyph plus the fina mark at the left anchor, at left. For B underscore E dot fina, it is B plus the E mark at the top anchor, plus fina mark at B colon left. So the fina mark located at the left anchor on the B glyph that we started with here. And that follows through on all of these. And you'll note some of these I had to use the U mark short, so they're a little longer in their appearance. That follows through on all of those syllables down to the bottom here with the last one, ZH underscore U. So that sequence of commands, when fed into FontLab Studio 7, and I'm sure 8, under Font Generate Glyphs, will generate all of these glyphs in purple here. And that is a terrific time saver whenever you go to make a change, because, as I said, they're all being generated as references. But it is possible to make them not be references, but I don't know why you'd want to do that. So that's going to save a lot of time and effort on how to generate the glyphs. Now, I will take a look at the scripting as well, just to make sure you've seen the whole thing. First off, you can ignore this. This is all just generating numbers with the weird number system that I come up with. This section here, these are all ligas, by the way. So they're all ligatures. And what that means is when you type in, say, TH, it will be replaced by the TH glyph. TSH, same thing. Well, CH glyph. I've put some different ways of typing stuff in here. But that's all that's doing there. And down here, these are all the syllables. Sub DH followed by an A by DH underscore A. Now, DH will already have been changed up here in this lookup here. So that generates all the syllables. And what that means is when you type something in, it will take a look at what you typed in, find a matching glyph, and display that glyph instead. Now, at the very bottom here, we have two things which are class statements for replacement. And that means I should look at showing you the classes before I get back to this. So these are the classes. There's two classes here, init and fina. And init has all of the glyph names that we have, whether base or generated, in this order, and it includes all of the syllable glyphs and everything else. Fina has all of the matching glyphs, and this is important, in the exact same order, but ending with .fina, because all of these glyphs here that are finals are named .fina. And those two class statements make these two lines do something. So what this says is if all the script above creates a member of the init class, so say KE right here, and it's followed by another member of the init class, anything else that got matched, then replace it with the FINA version. If a FINA glyph has been entered and is followed by an init, anything that matches up here with all this script here, replace it by a FINA version. And what that means is when you type something in, like TA, it matches a glyph, and that is the TA that is a member of the init class. SHA, that is sh_a.fina, because the script at the end there said, oh, I have an init glyph. This is an init glyph because that's what it matched with. Substitute the FINA version. And that means that everything in a word gets connected. If I go to type a new word, SA, SI, you see they join, T. In the scripting there, it said, oh, there's no vowel, so we'll match the one that has the isol mark at the bottom there to indicate that this is a word that has a consonant ending it. And that's really all there is to it. You do the work of placing the anchors in the right place. You edit a big text file that you can cut and paste into the font software, and it will generate all the glyphs for you. It should save you time and effort down the road when you go to make changes. I will include all of these relevant files, including the base version of Kana with nothing in it, down below in the video there, so that if you're interested, you can go and download the components and try doing this process yourself, and you can read and have an example of the commands that are used. And hopefully that makes it easier for you to figure this out when you go to do it with your conlang. Thanks for watching. Bye.